Hello everyone and welcome back to another PvP guide. Ajol here, and today's focus will be Discipline Priest. We will be discussing patch 9.1 Shadowlands and dive into talents, PvP talents, legendaries, covenants, soulbinds, conduits, stat priority and macros. Like always, I will do my best to keep this guide as short as possible, so without wasting any more time, let's get busy. Starting off with talents, our default talent build should look like this: Castigation, Body and Soul, Power Word Solace, Psychic Voice, Sins of the Many, Purge the Wicked, and Lenience. There are of course some variations. For tier 25 we can pick Masochism if we know we will get trained, as this talent will boost our survivability. The third option is Angelic Feather for some extra mobility at no extra mana cost. Remember, Angelic Feather does not cost mana, and although it costs you an extra global cooldown, if you aim for maximum mana efficiency without losing mobility, this talent is your best option. For tier 30, Shield Discipline is only viable in Battlegrounds. Mindbender is a viable option when you know you won't be able to use Solace on cooldown. However, keep in mind that Mindbender can be crowd controlled or rooted, which will punish your mana gains even more. Overall, you're better off playing with Power Word Solace. For tier 35 you could pick Shining Force if you're playing on Z-axis maps like Blade's Edge Arena, or if you already have too many disorient effects in your team. If you're mostly playing from a defensive position and you can't afford to push for fears, you will not get full value out of Psychic Voice. For the other tiers, nothing ever changes and you should always lock in the talents mentioned earlier. With that being said, we can move to PvP talents. My default PvP talents throughout Shadowlands have been Dome of Light, Trinity and Ultimate Radiance. Trinity is getting some changes. By default, Atonement gets buffed by 20% in PvP, while Trinity Critical Strike chance bonus gets to 30%. This means Trinity will lose a lot of value in 2v2, but will still be important in 3v3. Dark Archangel is also one of the best PvP talents. However, if you're not playing heavy setup compositions, you're better off sticking to more defensive options. In my opinion, Ultimate Radiance is mandatory for emergency healing. However, weirdly enough, you must try and avoid using Radiance as much as possible, as it will drain your mana very fast. It's better to have it and not need it than the other way around. If you're fighting against teams with one or more knockback effects like Ring of Peace, Death Grip or Thunderstorm, you may not get full value from Dome of Light. This will again force you or give you the freedom to pick something else that will help you more for certain specific fights. Blaze of Light looks interesting, but I honestly don't think we have room for it, especially since 9.1 is still going to be a very bursty meta. The same goes for improved Mass Dispel. It looks really nice, but it can only be used in very niche situations, and I honestly don't think it's worth sacrificing a PvP talent slot. Inner Light and Shadow looks very good to me. We can replace it with either Trinity or Dome of Light depending on compositions and enemy teams. For example, let's say we're playing threes and we're facing Death Knight and Monk. I would pick Inner Light and Shadow, Trinity and Ultimate Radiance. Remember that PvP talents are not carved in stone and should be changed to adapt any situation. Now that we've covered talents and PvP talents, we can talk about legendaries. I will try to cover the important ones and then talk about my favorite one, which I've already tested in 905 patch. As you know, we have the new Covenant legendaries, and to be honest, I don't like any of them. In my opinion, none of them change or improve the Covenant abilities in a game-breaking way. Sefu's Proclamation has been the best legendary for Disciplined Priest throughout most of Shadowlands so far. Extra stats and 10% crowd control reduction while being able to use Medallion and Will to Survive as a human every 90 seconds is pretty good. However, this legendary still gives only 80 secondary stats, and once we get more and more gear, those secondary stats will become less impactful. Other honorable mentions are Crystalline Reflection and Twins of the Sun Priestess, both of them being decent options. However, I don't think anyone settles for decent. My personal favorite, which I have already tested, is the Penitent one. 7 bolts of penance is just crazy. It does decent damage, but insane amounts of healing. Keep in mind that penance is your most efficient heal. This legendary gets stronger and stronger as you move into dampening and you are forced to start using Radiance. After Radiance, you don't have to use Penance immediately as the buff lasts for 20 seconds. If you use it while having Power of the Dark Side buff, Penance basically becomes Lay on Hands while having no mana cost. If you decide to play without Ultimate Radiance PvP talents, stay away from this legendary. Coming up next, Covenants. Long story short, we have 2 Covenant options, Venthyr and Night Fae. I know many of you will still play Venthyr for the mind games. However, with the increased number of ways to dispel mind games, my plan is to play Night Fae and become immortal. Dreamweaver had a broken Soulbind trait, Waking Dream, which made any damage taken below 80% HP to apply a 30% absorb based on the damage taken. Sadly, it got nerfed. Because of that, I choose to pick Nia as I think it scales better with Disciplined Priest. Default Soulbind traits are Grove Invigoration, Run Without Tiring, Nature Splendor, Nia's Tools Burst, Survivor's Rally, and Bonded Hearts. For conduits, we're going with Fae Fermata, Clear Mind, Translucent Image, Light's Inspiration, Shining Radiance, and Move with Grace. As for Venthyr, in my opinion, Nadia will be better than Theotar. Default Soulbinds should look like this: Thrill Seeker, Agent of Chaos, Friends in Low Places, Familiar Predicaments, Nimble Steps, and Fatal Flaw. For conduits, best options are Shattered Perceptions, Clear Mind, Translucent Image, Shining Radiance, Exaltation, and Light's Inspiration. With that being said, we pretty much covered Covenants, and we can start talking about stat priority. Needless to say that versatility is our strongest secondary stat regardless of what spec or class we are playing. However, try at least reaching a haste soft cap. I highly recommend getting at least 21% haste, although depending on gear we can go further and we can probably reach 31%. But until we get more gear, we can focus reaching 21% as it is doable even in 905. The reason we want 21% or more is because our GCD will be 1.2 seconds, Shadowmant cast time reaches 1.2 seconds, Mind Blast and Power Word Solace has 12 seconds cooldown, Penance has its channel reduced to 1.6 seconds, and last but not least, Shadow Word Death gets its cooldown reduced to 16 seconds. Get haste trinket, socket haste gems, and even enchant for haste where possible to get to this point, but don't go out of your way to invest more than 21% unless you can reach new haste breakpoints. So unless you can further reduce your cast time or your GCD, haste won't change much, and it's best to focus versatility. After versatility and haste, mastery comes third, and you can stay away from critical strike. With all of that being said, we covered almost everything. At the beginning of this video, I also mentioned macros. If you also want to see all the macros that I'm currently using on my Disciplined Priest, don't go yet as I will share them on the screen. I hope the information I shared in this video will be very helpful. If there is anything else you would like to add, or if you have any questions, please use the commentary section below. And like always, I will do my best to answer as soon as I can. Hit that like button if you enjoyed the guide. guide, and please consider subscribing if you haven't already, as this will help the channel a lot. Thank you all for watching, and remember to stay PvP. Have a great day. Bye bye.